Oh, hi there. Are you regularly releasing your pent-up energy? With pent-up energy, I mean negative emotions, forces and energies that you have purposely or even unwittingly hold on to, and for that matter have not expressed or released. Common forms of pent-up energy include emotions like sadness, frustration, anger and fear. Most of us, including myself, tend to hold on to these emotions. Whenever we do experience them, we do actually tend to start taking actions in order to make our negative emotions go away as quick as we can. And with that, especially the thoughts and feelings associated with them. However, while often we think we have released our negative emotions, more often than not, we rather end up holding on to them and suppressing them. That is a problem, as those emotions will then start negatively affecting our physical well-being as well as our mental well-being. What I want you to remember from this video is that a negative emotion is nothing more than a trigger of a past memory, which consequently makes you feel whatever you felt at the time of whatever past memory is triggered. To illustrate what this looks like, I'll share two of my personal examples of negative emotions with you that have been ruling and dominating most of my life. The first one being that I was suffering from severe anger outbursts whenever someone other than my own girlfriend would touch me. I even had a hard time going through airport security body pat-downs. While I'm on the topic of my anger outbursts and airports, once I even nearly punched a flight hostess for unexpectedly tapping me on the shoulder asking me to turn my phone off. Only recently I discovered that my emotional anger outbursts were triggered by my memory of having fallen victim to a phone call of a pedophile at a young age, which had pretended to be a doctor and managed to make me undress and touch myself while being on the phone with him. When I found out what had happened after I told my parents about the phone call, I thought of myself as being weak and vulnerable. The feeling associated with those thoughts was something I never wanted to experience again. As a result, I developed a defensive and also highly aggressive response whenever someone would get physically close to me, or let alone even touch me without my permission. Another example of one of my regularly occurring negative emotions was my feeling of fear whenever any girlfriend I had would talk positively about another man. It would instantly trigger my memory of being left by the second girlfriend I ever had. For a long time, I thought that my second ever girlfriend left me at the time so she could start dating her ex-partner again. Consequently, I had thought that I wasn't good enough and even unworthy of love. The feeling associated with those thoughts was also something I never wanted to experience again. As a result, I would always feel fearful whenever any of the girlfriends I had after that would even mention the name of another man in my presence. Because to me, all red flags were raised whenever that happened. I would instantly feel at risk of potentially being left for someone else again, and having to deal again with my thoughts and feelings of not being good enough. I also never dared to talk about my fears with any of my romantic partners, because after all, I was also doing everything I could to appear or feel weak and vulnerable. My respective responses of regularly getting angry at anyone who would get physically close to me, or me feeling repeatedly fearful of being left by any girl that I dated, never actually solved anything. In fact, my responses and behavior only made things worse, as I would continuously live in fear in any romantic relationship I had. And I would regularly get into heated arguments or even near fights whenever someone would get physically close to me. My negative emotions were controlling my life, as I was doing everything I could to avoid experiencing any more of them. Or better said, I was suppressing them rather than releasing them. At the time, I thought this was the best strategy to master my negative emotions. However, During recent years, I learned and witnessed firsthand that the key to stop experiencing the same negative emotions over and over again is not to avoid and suppress them. The solution to stop experiencing the same negative emotions over and over again is to go through the process of releasing them. For you to easily learn and understand how this process works, I have created an easy to remember 3-step phrase. Recognize, recall, release. The first step of recognizing a negative emotion is simple, as any uncomfortable feeling or thought usually indicates a negative emotion arising. Step 2 is trying to recall when you first felt the same way you feel in the present moment of your negative emotion arising again. This step requires some memory digging and especially willpower and courage to confront yourself again with memories you rather avoid recalling. However, it is crucial to do so if you want to start eliminating unwanted negative emotions and limitations from your life. Consequently, step 3 will almost be effortless. This is the step of releasing the attached meaning to the root memory that has repeatedly continued to make you feel sad, angry, frustrated, or fearful whenever a similar situation occurred. To find out what meaning you have attached to the root of any of your negative emotions, simply visualize the memory again while asking yourself the question, how did it make me feel at the time and what did I make it mean? If you want to start mastering your negative emotions, it is important for you to remember that the number one reason why we experience uncomfortable feelings and negative thoughts whenever certain memories are triggered is because we unnecessarily attach a meaning to happenings in our life. In my case, I had attached the meaning of me being weak and unworthy of love to the aforementioned happenings during my years growing up. However, decades later, I realized that those meanings, which I nowadays also refer to as stories, were my self-added additions to what had actually happened. When I realized that I had unnecessarily added stories of me being weak and unworthy of love to my memories of the pedophile phone call and my girlfriend breaking up with me, those memories also instantly lost the negative and even traumatic energy I had felt up to that moment whenever I thought of those happenings. As a result, I instantly lost my emotional anger outbursts whenever someone would get physically close to me, and my fear of losing my girlfriend to someone else. The negative emotions that had been impacting most of my life were literally released from my body. Here is how negative emotions work. Our brain continuously categorizes everything that happens in our life with either a red or a green flag. Red flags mark happenings of which our body thinks it should avoid next time. These happenings include any situation whenever you felt threatened or in danger. A simple way to remember what our body considers as a threat or danger is anything that has ever negatively impacted your sense of happiness. Whenever we sense something similar to an already existing red flag, our brain releases hormones that will instantly make us experience a negative emotion. Our brain sending out so-called negative energy whenever it senses a potential threat is a built-in mechanism to alert us of the situation at hand and to make us avoid potential danger to our happiness or even immediate survival. For example, whenever you trip over a rock somewhere, your brain will create a red flag attached to that location. The next time when your brain senses you're close to that same location again, it will release hormones that will make you feel extra alert and remind you of what happened last time to help you avoid tripping again. Or in my case, my brain had created a red flag attached to the situation of my second ever girlfriend talking about her ex-boyfriend shortly before breaking up with me. As a result, the next time any of my girlfriends would talk about another man, my brain would instantly release hormones to warn me of the potential danger of having to experience the same heartbreak again as I had felt the first time when my girlfriend talked about her ex-partner. These so-called red flag signals from our brain can result in various types of negative emotions to help us avoid experiencing the same red flag again. In my case, I mainly ended up experiencing a combination of fear and anger. However, there are also many other possible types of negative energy we can experience as a result of a red flag alert, which for example also include emotions like sadness, inadequacy, and frustration. Green flags, on the other hand, mark experiences that have somehow increased our sense of happiness, and therefore our brain will release rather so-called happy hormones that motivate us to keep doing more of whatever has a green flag attached to it. As we go through life, our brain continuously builds an ever-increasing database of red and green flags. This flag system comes in handy most of the time, as it prevents us, for example, from repeatedly injuring ourselves by tripping over the same rock. However, our red and green flag system can also unnecessarily limit us whenever situations are unrightfully marked with a red flag. That happens whenever we have attached an additional meaning, or also referred to as an additional story, to the situation. Interestingly enough, we only tend to attach additional stories to situations that involve other people. For example, if you trip over a rock, you likely won't think that the rock did it because you are weak and therefore an easy target. However, if another person would trip you, then you will start looking for reasons why. Or in other words, you will start looking for the additional meaning behind what just happened. With the help of the knowledge I just shared, you can now start mastering 99% of your negative emotions. The 99% represents all your emotions that are attached to older unpleasant memories, or sometimes also referred to as traumas. Considering that on average we experience 99% of any kind of threat or danger to our happiness and survival during the first 20 years of our life, 99% of your negative emotions as an adult can be eliminated through the process of recognition, recalling, and releasing. The other 1% represents uncomfortable feelings that are completely new to us as an adult. These are feelings that are not comparable in any way to anything we have experienced and felt while growing up. One of the most common examples of a feeling we might not experience while growing up, but we do at a later stage in life, is the passing of a direct relative. For example, our parents. As this is something I haven't experienced yet myself, I do not feel skilled enough to share any advice on how to deal with such experience the best possible way. However, besides the aforementioned 3-step emotional release formula, I do feel comfortable sharing another additional and complementary success tip in order to minimize the impact of negative emotions whenever they arise. That is, to regularly exercise, talk about negative emotions with other people, or even write about them for that matter, and occasionally just unabashedly completely empty out your energy tank and thereby also releasing any negative energy. Personally, I love to do the latter through long distance running or cycling, but sometimes also through dancing or by simply screaming out as loud as I can or crying my heart out while visualizing any negative energy leaving my body while doing it. Physically releasing energy is always a good idea, whether it's through verbal expression, written expression, or any other form of expression for that matter. There is a reason why the rave parties I co-produced the past decade use terms like unleash the beast, release your primal energy, or dragon blood. In fact, you now know more of the intention and meaning behind those slogans. It gets even more interesting. Have you ever spent time thinking about what your body is made up of? and why your personal energy, or also known as the way you feel, can radically change from one moment into the next. If you were to zoom into your body just closely enough, you will discover that your entire body consists of nothing else but minuscule atoms. Scientists also refer to these atoms as particles or electrons. Even though you think you are skin, hands and feet, that might be true, but those body parts, as well as the rest of your entire body, can be broken down into merely being a fusion of atoms. The atoms that make up our physical body are electrically charged. The countless electrical currents connecting atoms with each other ultimately shape and form our body. Everything you sense and think affects the electrical current, or also better known as your personal energy, that continuously flows through your body 24/7. This is exactly the reason why we often experience a more positive and heightened sense of energy whenever we experience something pleasant. However, this is also the reason why we will feel quickly tired or even depressed when we experience a rather negative emotion. The term emotion stands for energy in motion. However, negative emotions tend to rather block our flow of energy. Just recall the last time you felt intensely sad, disappointed or frustrated. That feeling you experience in that moment is your body's energy flow coming to a standstill. To visualize how this works, just imagine a highway full of cars, with every car being an atom. In order to avoid traffic congestion, or in other words, a blockage of energy, it is key that traffic keeps moving. When traffic slows down or even completely stops, there is a problem. We all know how frustrating that feeling is of sitting in your car without being able to move forward. That is exactly what happens whenever we experience a negative emotion. Traffic stops, or in our case, the electrical currents in our body get disrupted and blocked. As a result, time suddenly seems to stand still. We experience a lack of motivation and often even a sense of depression or desperation. The key to achieve optimal functioning of our body is to avoid heavy congestion and energy blockages within. If you never cry or scream for that matter, then that might rather be a sign you've got a lot of pent-up energy stored inside of you. If you do not regularly attend to and release your blockages of negative energy, then the congestion will only get worse over time. This is when diseases and mental disorders start occurring. There is a reason why our body's first response in situations of pain is to cry and/or scream. It's simply how we can release negative energy that we would otherwise hold on to. By the way, another fun fact: did you know that your dreams are also part of your body's mechanism and desire to get rid of any negative energy you are holding on to? As soon as you go into a deep sleep, your brain will start attending to all impulses you sense during that day, or sometimes even from a while ago. It does this in order to stimulate the release of any unpleasant memories, as well as the emotions attached to those memories. This is why you should pay attention to your dreams, as it can greatly help to recognize whether something is holding you back and what that is. If you keep having nightmares, that means that you need to start attending to the memory you keep dreaming of, or start the process of trying to recall what memory is triggering your ongoing negative night visions.